Welcome to episode 53 of Book Nerd Paradise, where we get to know an author as they tell us one of their favorite quotes, read from their work, pose a trivia question, and give away a book too. Hi, I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series. And if those of you who have recently joined us, please know that the ebook of both book one in the series, Blast of the Dragon's Fury, as well as the prequel, which is Power of the Air's Passion, are both available for free download on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Google Play. So please feel free to get a copy. Okay, so today we have the pleasure of getting to know YA fantasy author Michaelbrent Collings. Michaelbrent is an internationally best-selling author, one of the top indie horror writers in the US, and an international bestseller in over 40 countries. He is also a screenwriter who works in, as he calls it, Hollyweird. Okay. He's also a multiple Bram Stoker Award nominee, and his bestsellers include The Colony Saga, Strangers, Darkbound, Operation, The Haunted, The Loon, and his YA fantasy series, The Billy Saga. He hopes someday to develop superpowers and maybe get a really cool robot on. How about that? Yes. Michaelbrent has a wife and several kids, all of whom he says are much better looking and much, much cooler than he is, although he admits that's a low bar to set. Okay. What are we in for today? This will be good. Join me in welcoming Michaelbrent Collings.
Hey, how are you?
Great to have you here.
It's my pleasure.
Michaelbrent, you'll be reading from your YA fantasy novel, The Sword Chronicles, Child of the Empire. So that we can get a feel for the book, would you give us a brief synopsis?
The Sword Chronicles is it's a fantasy, and it takes place in this empire called Ansborn, which is literally on the top of 5 mountains. Nobody has ever climbed down the mountain. There's cloud cover below, and if they go below it, killed, and their body shows up in the middle of the palace. So they're surrounded by enemies, and in this world there are people who have magical powers, and the most powerful of these people are called greater gifts, and they are taken and conscripted into service for the empire as its most elite assassins. The main character in the book grows up as what's called a dog. In Ansborn, there are arenas where children are raised to fight in gladiatorial games with no end in sight. They never win and get out. They just fight until one day they die. So the main character is this girl who is a dog, they're called, who one day is discovered to be a greater gift and taken from the lowest of the low and elevated to the highest of the high.
You have a favorite quote. If you would, tell us what it is and then tell us why it's a favorite.
One of my favorite quotes, I have lots, because as a writer, I'm allowed to read a lot, and I get to, kind of take in whatever I'm reading right now as my favorite. But one of my favorites of all time is from Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, which is just it's one of the most gorgeously written pieces in literature. It's so beautiful. And a really great quote is, "Morality is truth in full bloom," which I love, because today we have sort of two ends of a spectrum. And one is there's no such thing as morality. Everything's kind of relative and flexible. And the other end is very rigid, and it's my way or the highway. And people are willing to murder each other over one point of view and not take any kind of a stand over another. And I think that when we view the possibility that there's real truth out there, it is not something that binds us up, but it allows us freedom to choose wisely. And I think that's what Victor Hugo is saying.
Have to think about that one a little bit, won't I?
Yes, I was going super deep for this one.
Have you ever heard the expression awesome possum? Are you looking for great reads for your kids or grandkids? Award-winning author M.K. Mathias has recently published the first 3 books in the Awesome Possum series for early readers. And the expression awesome possum is apropos because these books have an engaging rhyming tale with full color illustrations that are sure to keep kids riveted and begging for more. Awesome Possum by M.K. Mathias. Get one or all of them at Amazon today.
You you're also giving away a book. What is that you're giving away?
I have 2 free e-copies of my book, The Sword Chronicles, and they'll tell you more about how to get those.
Enter to win, and these are cool, cool books. So there's 2 e-copies available, so anybody can win. It's not international or domestic, it's anybody. So make sure that in the comments right below, right there, that you just leave a comment about the show. It could be the answer to the trivia question. It doesn't have to be. Just any comment about the show. And then also please leave a Twitter handle, Facebook address, some way to get a hold of you, email address, and then we'll make sure that we can get a hold of you and you can get your prize.
One caveat,
Yeah.
if your comment is, boy, he's uglier than I thought he'd be, you're automatically disqualified.
Okay, well, I haven't had anybody make a comment like that, so I think they're well behaved. We should be good.
But they've never had this to deal with before.
Well, that is true. I'll give you that one. I'll grant you that, yes. I'm going to be reading from, as I said, your YA fantasy novel, The Sword Chronicles, Child of the Empire. If you would set up the portion you'll be reading from and then go ahead and share with us.
This part is in the very beginning, so our main character is still a dog. She has no name, that's all she's known as. And in these gladiator, these arena fights, they have packs where a group of dogs runs out and fights another group. And in her situation, her pack has just been decimated. She's alone and she's surrounded by the rest of the other pack, and so it's pretty clear she's in real trouble, and no one has ever gotten out of this situation before. All right. Suddenly, the girl found herself alone. Her own packmates had not gone without a reckoning, and she herself had killed 3 of the other pack. Still, that meant she was facing 10, 12, 13 still fighting members of the other pack. She was going to die. They ringed her, several of them growling like the dogs they were named for. She tried to decide if it would be better to fight or simply to kneel and accept her fate. She knew that some packs would kill fighters quickly, would punish those who chose a coward's death with long, agonizing demise. Other packs were the opposite and would reserve torture for those who resisted. So she would fight, because it was her nature to fight. She would follow what she knew and what she was. Something landed at her feet. It was a knife. Someone in the crowd had tossed her a knife. Perhaps so she could have a chance facing the 13 girls and boys before her. Perhaps so she could grant herself a merciful death. This had happened before. She had seen it. But that was the only other rule of the arena. No weapons. If any dog took up a weapon, he or she would be put down. Riflemen waited behind the glow globes, ready to put a bullet into the stomach of any dog who took up arms. A certain painful death. Death, no matter what. And she had never handled a knife, so she doubted it would matter to her survival. I'm dead already. She picked up the knife. The second her fingers touched it, something happened. It was something like the times when a shock stick slammed down on her, a thrumming, pounding pulse that ran from the knife to her fingers to her hand and arm. It settled deep in her chest, a fire that would not be quenched. One of the other pack jumped at her. She moved, unaware of how she was moving, of what she was doing. She was only vaguely conscious of the dirt floor of the arena kicking below her feet, her arm moving so fast she couldn't see it. The dog who had jumped at her continued his jump, only she wasn't there, and when he landed, he was holding his stomach. No, not holding it together. He stumbled, fell, blood ran into the sand. She spun. 2 more dogs rushed her. 3. They fell as one. She did not know what she was doing. Her arm was its own master, the knife its own creature, a beast that sought only to drink the blood of her enemies. 4 dogs down, then 5, 10. The last 3 circled her. No hesitation in spite of all that had just happened, because a good dog never hesitated, never thought, just attacked, just killed or died. They leaped. They fell. And she did not have to look to know that all who had stood against her were dead. It had all happened fast, so fast that the crowd had utterly hushed, shocked to silence by the impossible ferocity and skill they had just witnessed. and it had happened so fast that apparently the rifleman had been stunned to inaction, but not anymore. She heard the shot. She moved. Something numbed her hand. Another shot. Again, her hand tingled. The hush that had spread over the arena somehow intensified, and a single voice whispered into the silence. God's charity, she blocked them. She blocked the bullets.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I'm like right there.
I'm so glad, because that's my job.
Our guest author last episode posed a trivia question for us.
So our trivia question last week was asking about the Percy Jackson series, and I asked which of the Olympian gods is Percy's father, and the answer is his father is Poseidon, the god of the sea.
Michaelbrent, you have a trivia question for our listeners. What is it?
In the last 15 years, what young adult novel was turned into the biggest box office flop?
Ooh, flop. Not success, but flop. Ooh, biggest box office flop. Okay, well, this is a very good question. All right, so for those of us who do not know the answer, myself included, make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel, because you certainly don't want to miss the answer when Michaelbrent reveals it next episode. So make sure you subscribe.
I may be wearing some sort of interesting hat. I may be, well, not nude, because that's horrifying, but you know, there could be more interesting stuff than just the answer, so you want to show up for that.
Okay, there's a bazillion pictures that just went through my brain, and I don't know if I don't know if any of them are good.
Let me tell you something really funny, really quick. My first name is Michaelbrent, and I'm the only Michaelbrent in the world. But there is a Michael, last name Brent, who is, and I'm not kidding, an underwear model. And I live in constant terror that at a Comic-Con someone's going to come up to me like some, young woman, and then just punch me in the face and say, "Your pictures lied."
That is an awful fate, isn't it? Oh my. Your parents certainly couldn't have anticipated that when they named you, so.
Seriously, I thought I was unique, and I am, but in such a way that I can be actually confused for a good-looking person, which is a horrible thing.
Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners?
First of all, if you want to find me, the easiest way is just to type in Michaelbrent on Google, all this one word, because there is only one me. If you see a devastatingly good-looking guy, not me, but otherwise it should send you right to my website, right to my Amazon page, so I'm easy to find. But other than that, other than the important method of finding me, I just encourage everyone to keep reading. I speak at schools and at Comic-Cons and at writing events all over the United States. And if you can read, if you can write, you have a future. You have a glorious future of imagination, and that translates into a real future in the real world, because people who can imagine great things make great things happen.
Very nice. Well, thank you for those words. That's great. Okay,
My pleasure.
So I hope you've enjoyed getting to know Michaelbrent Collings just a little bit. I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series. As I mentioned, make sure you download the ebook of both the prequel as well as book 1 in the series, which are free on Amazon, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble.
Click the button to subscribe to the Book Nerd Paradise YouTube channel so you don't miss upcoming authors, giveaways, and answers to trivia questions.
Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I look forward to seeing you again next Monday.